It's Thursday, the 28th of March, 2024. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Adam Lang.
Good morning, Michael.
Adam, 5 stories in 5 minutes. Let's get going. Story number 1, big news in the economy. Inflation is stabilising. The Australian Bureau of Statistics monthly CPI figures show the third month of no change to the annual inflation rate in February.
Yes, Michael, I think this is good news. It's at 3.4%, and that's a touch lower than the 3.5% expected by the markets, and that gave them extra confidence yesterday. Treasurer Jim Chalmers welcomed the flat figures, saying they show inflation remaining at its lowest level in 2 years. The figures show that rental prices continue to bite, as do higher insurance premiums, but food costs have pulled back a bit. Taylor Swift even got a mention from the Australian Bureau of Statistics for increasing hotel prices in Sydney and Melbourne over the month.
All right, so what does all of this mean, Adam? What does this data mean, particularly for interest rates?
Well, Michael, most economists are not expecting the read to derail the Reserve Bank of Australia's plans. This means they'll likely be on hold with interest rates for a bit longer, and speculation about rate cuts will continue. However, we get a quarterly read of the inflation data in April ahead of the next May RBA meeting, and that will provide a lot more detail. This will be the critical one to watch for any potential shift in the central bank's position.
I think there's a lot of people hoping it'll be sooner rather than later. All right, on to story number 2 now, Adam. The Productivity Commission has called an end to the freefall in productivity that started in June 2022, really following the pandemic.
Yeah, Michael, this one is for the data observers like me. Labour productivity increased 0.5% in the December quarter on the back of a 0.3% decline in hours worked and a 0.2% rise in output. The Productivity Commission's latest bulletin, released late last night, shows this was the second quarter of increased productivity, but even the last 2 quarterly reads didn't stop productivity from falling 0.4% over the year 2023. The Commission says the productivity bubble burst in 2022 after a sharp rise in productivity and has now bottomed out. There's been some downward pressure on productivity due to newer, less experienced workers entering the very tight jobs market, but it is now recording rises in half of the industries measured, and that's good news.
Adam, story number 3, there's been a big boom in solar panels. It seems when you go for a walk through your neighbourhood, every second house has solar panels. Now there is a big push to make more of them here in Australia. The federal government is committing $1 billion to a new solar sunshot program. The government is hoping that Australia can capture more of that global solar manufacturing supply chain.
Yeah, Michael, at the moment, 1 in 3 Aussie households have solar panels, but only 1% of those are made in Australia. The government wants to shift this, including driving investment into solar panels in the Hunter region, where the government announced this new scheme. The full details are yet to be published, but it's going to include supply chain support, production subsidies, and grants.
Story number 4, Apple's shipments of iPhones into China fell by about a third in February compared to the same time last year. Now, this makes it the second consecutive month to show a decline in the devices getting shipped. What's going on?
Yeah, well, Michael, these are new figures from China's Academy of Information and Communications Technology that indicate more trouble for Apple in one of the world's largest economies. There were 2.4 million foreign brands of smartphones shipped into China in February, and that compares to 5.5 million in January, and that was down almost 40% on the same time in 2023. Apple makes up the lion's share of these phones by some stretch, and while the month was impacted by the timing of the Lunar New Year, it's not great news. Bloomberg is attributing the slowdown in iPhone sales in China to the strength of rival Huawei technologies and reluctance from consumers to buy up discretionary goods. But it's a live question whether this is going to be a trend or it's just a blip.
All right, last one, story number 5. With the Easter long weekend kicking off tomorrow, obviously there is a lot of attention on chocolate at the moment, but chocolate makers are having a bit of a tough time, Adam, because cocoa futures have doubled this year to above $10,000 for the first time ever this week.
Michael, cocoa has been one of the top performing commodities, and that's actually bad news for our big chocolate producers in Australia and abroad, and for what we ultimately have to pay on the supermarket shelf. Hershey has now copped it because of the higher cocoa input cost and has been downgraded to neutral from outperform by BNP Paribas Exane. Some of the rising cocoa cost is being attributed to the new European Union sustainability rules, and they're aimed at stopping the sale of products that destroy forests. But pretty bad harm harvests on the back of bad weather and other growing challenges in major cocoa regions like West Africa have also played havoc with the supply of cocoa and therefore the cost. But don't be too worried about a spike over the next few days. Analysts suggest some of this might not hit shelf prices for another 6 to 12 months. That might mean next Easter is actually a lot more expensive.
All right, there we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Thursday, the 28th of March, 2024. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.